Caves of Cud recently released a big update, the Moonstare, that apparently has a bunch of new stuff, but I haven't myself got to the new bits yet. I had to start from the start again, but I've been playing it a bunch the last couple of months, so I thought to talk about it. It's more or less a traditional roguelike. Like, it's not ASCII characters, but it has like if you look at it and squint, you think it was. It's like trying to have the feeling of playing Rogue, NetHack, ADOM, as well as having some modern improvements. The biggest difference I'd noticed from the roguelikes I used to play as a kid is that the world map is like every tile is fully realized, as opposed to say ADOM. You could there were specific dungeons and the map was just a place to traverse to get between the dungeons with like maybe random encounters on the surface. But CUD is just like the whole world is there. So that's like a nice example of like computers have gotten better since then in ways that impact even what's possible in like some of the earliest genres that are still like in lots of ways really simple. It's actually really nice what they've done with the world map, like little bit of light coming through the branches. So the full world map is just like a whole screen's worth. So probably like 80 by 24, like something like that. And maybe more, I don't know. And every tile on that, when you move to it, you can press that arrow and open it up, and it goes and it expands out to a 3 by 3, 3 screens by 3 screens of actual game. And you start on the center one. And what this achieves is that like you want to have the world map for like getting between different towns, distant places that you know the destinations of, but you also want to have locations that you might uncover when they come up in the story or when something special happens, that you can't just run to shortcut the entire game. So like if you just had a naive world map, you could like on the world map move up one tile, then go into the tile, see if there's anything interesting there, then pop back out, go up, pop in, see if there's anything interesting there. There'd be no hiding location. So what they've done, which is really simple, but just kind of nice, is because it expands to a 3 by 3 grid. If you just went to every tile and checked out what was there and then popped back to the world map, you would only see 1/9 of all the tiles. So to actually explore the world, you have to go to every tile, pop in, explore in every direction to make sure you'd actually, in which you'd have to be like fighting enemies and getting past mazes and all this stuff. So it's just a nice way that there can be a world map to index the whole thing, but enough space that's hidden within it that when you actually get up close and expand out, you don't automatically see everything. And it's just a nice, really simple mechanism. I mean, simple in that like it's obviously a lot of data, and bit of work for the world generation algorithm. But yeah, and then as you go through the story and as you explore, like maybe you upgrade a skill that gives you a higher chance of finding special locations, and then when you're passing them on the world map, you go, oh, here, but to the northeast there's some ruins. Do you want to explore them? Or you get a quest that says 5 parasangs to the south of some forgotten ruins there is a town called Ticho, and that's a really annoying one because there's so many forgotten ruins. Like you go. It gives you the information to check from places on the map and explore in a more physical way. Yeah, so that's nice. The units of distance on the map are called parasangs. Just like the game's got a lot of cool words. Like it's just the snapjaw scavenger and beetles and the cycle flesh gun. Like there's just like a lot of things in the game are really fun to say. Vine wafer sheaths, and that's just like really good. Like a lot of what makes fantasy writing good is just having stuff that's fun enough to say that when you're reading it, you don't just like that you actually you slow yourself down and you say it out loud, or you imagine yourself saying it out loud, and you that just feels really nice in my mouth. And Caves of Cut has good mouthfeel. So it's good writing. Like in the wave graph of stone over time, where the world plates once vexed themselves into war, a quiet peace has settled. It's like the terrain descriptions, like everything as you go around, it's just like popping with like I don't know what it is, like enough different sounds and nice juxtapositions that it's just like a nice stretchy exercise for your tongue and lips, and just like Mammon Soul Drinker, just like it just stretches your mouth in pleasing ways. Whoa, I'm off a tree. So it's kind of a like a lot of it looks like a standard fantasy, like typical roguelike setting. You get clubs and axes and fight monsters, but it's set in a post-singularity, post-apocalyptic world where, and I love this shit, like just like, as a kid I read a lot of sci-fi novels, a lot of fantasy novels, and I just have a special love for when you have the 2-in-1, right? Like this is wizards and knights in this medieval world, but they just uncover some like clues that actually the magic is advanced technology from like a sci-fi civilization. And like Cud's got that in spades. It's like, I mean, it's not clear to strike right there on the face of it, but it's just like, you're charging into battle with an axe, and then someone throws a plasma grenade at you, and you're like I love the juxtaposition, and it really, I think it makes a really strong argument that science fantasy is the natural genre for roguelikes for video games even, because we want that immersion of a fantastical world, but magic. But in the end, it's software on a computer, and any rules in the game governing how magic works are just like they're rules. They're essentially knowable, and you can do science on them and solve them. So yeah, like just the game being like kind of direct about that. It's like, yeah, you found a mystical weird artifact and it shoots beams of glowing light and it's a laser gun, and if you like learn to build machines, then you can build your own laser gun, and it just makes, it's a really nice way of walking that line between magical mystery and like comprehensible software mediated rules. Like you get a flaming sword and you hit things with it, flames burst out, and like what powers it is a battery, and like your battery runs out, you're like in the middle of a fight, like hold back, I've just got to change batteries in my flaming sword. It's kind of like if you try to do that in like a fully fantasy setting, like have that mechanic balancing the power of magic items with like a resource, then like, oh no, I've run out of mana crystals, or here's a purple mana gem, those are like, like plenty of games do that, and it's like fine, but it just feels like just so sense making for it to like, we have intuition of how batteries might work because they exist and follow natural laws. A mana gem, like, it could do anything. Like, it's just whatever someone made up for it to do. And, like, it's just, like, learning the rules of a magic fantasy game is just, like, guessing what's in the developer's mind. Like, okay, they said it's a fireball. Like, I think a fireball is probably, like, a medium level attack spell, right? Like, oh no, it turns out it's a level 1 attack spell in this game. Okay, what, like, it's just, whereas when things are, like, relate to, like, things that make a logical sort of scientific sense, then it's like, it's still, like, guessing what numbers the developer assigned to it, like, but, a chrome pyramid with swarm missile racks on it is like clearly terrifying. Where it's like a wizard chrome pyramid could be like whatever. Yeah. So I like just the higgledy-piggledy jumble of you've got some grenades, and you've got a laser gun, and you've got some plate mail, and you've got leather boots, just like you're a post-apocalyptic scavenger mixing up high technology and reconstructed technology and just whatever people are doing to survive, and you've just got little pieces of it, and you're just like try to give it a straight. That's nice. I feel, small criticism potentially, I feel it could feel a bit more jumbled, because like I was playing it and like I was collecting like I had a full suit of like leather armor, and I started finding iron plate armor, and so I put on iron plate armor instead. Then I had a full suit of iron plate armor, and then I started finding steel plate armor, so I put all that on. And then, like, as I was going through the plot, getting to more advanced areas, suddenly I start killing enemies who are dressed in folded carbide plate mail. And it's like, that's super cool, the juxtaposition of the sci-fi materials with the medieval fantasy uses. Love that. But then, like, shortly after I started finding that, I had a full suit of folded carbide plate mail, and then next area I start meeting creatures in cry-steel plate mail, and then I have a full suit of cry-steel plate mail, and like, yeah, like the part of the fun of it is the jumble mix, and it felt like a bit too linear. Like, as I was going through the progression, I get the next material and I pretty quickly get a full suit of that material. And like the same with artifacts, like at first you're finding level 1 Tinker artifacts and small batteries that power them, and then as you go on later you're finding level 3 artifacts that need a lot of power. At the same time you're finding antimatter batteries and nuclear batteries that can power them. It's just like, yeah, I feel like there's this wonderful juxtapositions happening there, but it's a bit too balanced, and I want to like find one. It's just fun when you find an out of depth item. And it does happen. I found like a force bracelet that makes an impenetrable shield around you, but you can still shoot out of it, and then you can cheese a bunch of fights until you find someone who has an EMP or something that can disable it. And like, yeah, like part of the fun of is that, like, cheesing, that having something that's a bit overpowered, but only some of your things are overpowered and the other things are not, and you have that jumbled rather than my weapons and my armor and my magical machines all sort of match because they're the same level because they're from the area that I'm up to now. Yeah, I think I could do just a little bit more variance in the item distribution, just to be a bit more chaotic. But like, it does happen, and when it works, it really works. So like, I don't like. I've started as a developer. I've started making lots of big roguelikes. Like, spent a lot of my teens, especially some of my 20s, just like making games that were way too big for me to make, and like, so yeah, I just have respect for people who actually manage to finish one of those giant things. I've just sort of settled on, like, that's not a scale that I want to work on at the moment, and so I make little dinky games that like I can like completely get my head around. So like, yeah, I don't want to be too critical of like how they balance this like giant thing, and it's just like, well, but yeah, I'd just be like, and it does happen, like you find an out of depth artifact and then you can't really use it because you don't have the power cells for it. Yeah, like part of what really makes that a problem is that enemies use items the same way the player does, and like they actually have all their equipment, and when you defeat them and you can get everything they had off their corpse. So like, yeah, it makes sense that you go to a new region where enemies have access to elastine or fullerite, then they're fully decked in it, and then you kill one or two of them, and then you're fully decked in it, and like, it's a logical consequence of that interesting game concept of symmetry of a sort between the player and the enemies. And like, yeah, the more abstract RPG approaches just like have what equipment enemies drop and what equipment they use like be separate tables. I really like that about CUD and like about the roguelike ethos that in a sense everything in the world is real, like the enemies follow the same rules that you do. They actually like it has a whole system of like providing electrical power to things, and like if there's a machine that's working, then somewhere there's a power plant driving it and like cables connecting them, and if you want to turn the machine off you can break the cables or destroy the power plant. Like it has a realness to it. Like if there's a creature from another dimension, then like somewhere simulated in the game there's another dimension where where they come from, where you can potentially get to if you find a means of dimensional travel. Like so yeah, it's kind of, in a way it's a good thing that like enemies drop their items and that you can get the same using it. So it just creates some design challenges. One of those in a lot of roguelikes is that you end up with a surfeit of items because you fight a lot of enemies, kill a lot of enemies, they all have their stuff, you get their stuff, and like if you're just going down in a dungeon and you only have what you can carry, then that would be fine. You just pick the best that you can carry. But when they're going for a fully realised world with shops and stuff, then you want to take the stuff to the shops and sell it to get money, because then you can buy better stuff for yourself. And I really like CUD's solution to this, which is that the shops work on trading. Like there's not an abstract currency that you can convert everything into. You can just trade. Like there kind of is, because there's like water, but water's quite heavy. Like you can't. You don't have a weightless wallet that you can have 20,000 copper coins in that you collected by selling 100 stone axes. But those numbers don't work. Pretend those numbers work. You have water skins which you fill up with water, and you can only have as much water as you can reasonably carry. So it's not like a fully fungible currency like would be easier to do. So basically if you want to buy a really expensive item, you can pay for it with water, but be vastly more water than you can carry. So you have to pay for it basically with other items you're trading, and items that are too much cheaper than it aren't going to go very far. Like if this plasma rifle is the equivalent of 3,000 stone axes. You can't carry 3,000 stone axes to the merchant and say, "Will you take these in exchange for the plasma rifle?" You have to have items that are close enough in value to what you're trading for. You might throw in a couple of stone axes or wooden bows or whatever, but to a rough approximation, to buy good items, you need good items to trade. And that means when you're fighting the 500th Snapdraw Scavenger and he drops a wool cloak and a copper dagger, you're just like, these aren't worth me picking up because I can't trade them for anything. Like they're not, without going through a lot of steps, they're not fungible with the good items that I'm trying to buy right now. To some extent, you can choose that again, because you can take piles of cheap items, plop them in front of the merchant, and then when you want to do the trade, pick them all up. You're overburdened; it's more than you can carry, but you can still trade with them. Actually, I think the best shop in the game gets around that tactic because you can own. It costs a rare resource to actually get into the shop, and so you can't go back and forth to save up cheap items to buy the big ones. You have to just have some quite good trade goods. Yeah, so that's nice. Yeah, it's a weird game. Change position. It has this. Okay, it's a cliche, but sometimes what it reminds me of is the hallucinations I've had when I've had a fever from being extremely ill. Just like that feeling of this stuff, I'm just in this jungle and there's another goat folk sower and he's throwing seeds at me and then I'm in a jungle again and there's a turtle snapping at me and it's a fever dream. And I guess where that feeling comes from is the vast amounts of procedural areas. There's a bunch of handmade content scattered throughout the game, and then there's generated terrain to fill in between. And the generators are really tastefully used, but it's your mind's trying to catch on it and find the sense there. Did someone put this here? Just doesn't quite make sense in a human comprehensible way. The feeling of trying to catch the idea and it's but it is very dense with actual handmade content. You'll be 20 dungeons levels deep in some caves and just see nothing for a while, and then suddenly there's a little village of assorted creatures that are friendly, and you can trade with them, and or like join my caravan, and like, again, these things are randomly placed, but like it's like well tuned that there's enough. You know, if there was a village of pariahs on every screen, it'd be boring. It's just like with the right density that it feels interesting to find them, and so they're interesting. Yeah, I just like out in the desert, and I find just run into this guy who's out there by himself, and talk to him and say hi, and like he's up for chatting. We share water, and I teach him some recipes I know, and he teaches me like some athletic skills or something, and it's like, and you say bye and go on, and it's yeah, there's little interactions that scatter around that are kind of nice. You can build up a story on it. What else? Okay, this is maybe critical, or maybe it's like I haven't. Maybe I just need to get good, right? Consumables are hard. Like designing a game. Yeah, when I'm putting like consumable items in a game, I usually quite careful to constrain it so that like you're sort of forced to use them. So yeah, in card, like after I've been playing for a couple of hours, I have like 15 different salves and 20 different grenades, and like when would I use these? Like probably it'd be good for me to use them like in some of these fights, but like I open them up and I read them, and it like gives 30% protection from fire and also 10% protection from cold, but also you'll take damage from heat if you don't move, but also you take more damage from falling or something like yeah, the consumable items are really complicated. They give a bunch of different effects that aren't all positive, and I just find it really hard to work out when it would be advantageous to me to use them. Like I have a normality gas grenade. It switches off half of the enemy's abilities, but also half of my abilities. Like when do I want that? Like yeah, I don't think they need to be like balanced by having negative effects, because it would still be hard to figure out when to use them if they were just like all clear simple upside. And so the fact that they have downsides as well is just like too much. But like the downside is that you've used it now and you don't have it to use later. And that's enough of a downside to be very discouraging. Like I will just not use things so that I have them when I might need them, and then get to the end of the game and like, yeah, like this is a classic game design problem. And yeah, there's even a cybernetic implant in the game that uses yourselves for you, so you don't have to figure out when to use them. Like it has some AI protocol for when to use them, and like so I put it in my arm and I put a bunch of cells in it and I'm going through fights and it's like, now you're injected with this, now you're injected with that. I'm like, great, did I need to be? I feel like I would have probably gotten through that fight without that, but maybe not. But like, yeah, I was like hoping that like seeing when it used them would help me understand how to use them effectively, but I'm just like, yeah, like there's situations like you're close to death, you use a salve, you're frozen, you use a blaze injector which unfreezes you, but like is probably also useful in other situations that I don't fully understand. And yeah, like that, I guess when there's a bunch of enemies around doing a particular type of damage, you want to use something that protects you from that type of damage, but then it also makes you vulnerable to something else, so you have to check that there's not, yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of a situation where the like flavorful names don't help, because like there's a rubber gum injector. I'm like, cool, a rubber gum injector, what does that do? And I think it's approximately a potion of lightning resistance, right? Like it increases your protection from electrical damage. And like if it said on it, potion of lightning resistance, then I would just like drink it when spark ticks are attacking. But because it says rubber gum and like it also increases or decreases your falling damage, but you can't get grappled, but you're vulnerable to something else. Yeah, so I would like to see those simplified. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, on the whole, like like there's a lot of flexibility in the game. Like you can play what kind of character you want to play, and like in that sense, it's probably reasonable to say, yeah, I'm playing a character who's not a build that's focused on grenades themselves, but just the fact that you do find them, you know, I imagine there would be a build where you get the tinker skills to make them, so you have heaps of them, and you know, the grenades can be thrown, but there's a grenade launcher weapon that I guess makes them go further, at least. So yeah, I think I just feel I mind them more because I still get them in my inventory and don't use them and hoard them and feel like I probably should have used them optimally but haven't. When I'm not playing a character that's focused on them. But yeah, there's a lot of variety of characters you can play. The first choice in the game is, do you want to play a mutant or a cyborg? Which is just like perfect. It's like sets the scene so meticulously. Then after that, there's like, you come from the archaeology of the deeps where you fight elementals, so I guess you have fire resistance or something, I don't know. Or yeah, there's lots of I feel like there's too many character choices up front, actually. like, that's just as a matter of personal taste. Like I like to have a lot of setup if the game itself is simple, like the Magic the Gathering kind of thing, where you can make enormous amount of choice of what character you're playing, and then play it out like several times, a few rounds, or else have minimal upfront choice and you build your character as you play the game. Because CUD, it's a roguelike, it's pretty easy to die, and you spend like 20 minutes making up a character, and then they set out, and then they die, and then like kind of feels off to just play the same guy again, even though like you can. Yeah. I don't know. It has a like explore mode where you play it as a normal CRPG rather than a roguelike, where like you just save at towns and stuff. And I haven't played in that mode, but I'm kind of leaning towards like maybe it's just the way to play it, because I don't know. I don't feel like it's quite nailed that like losing is fun thing. Like they've tried a bit with, rather than the fixed starting town being able to have a random starting town with random quests and stuff, but like basically a lot of the fun in the game is getting further in and seeing the cool new stuff they put in, like the moon stair that I want to say, and like yeah, losing is just like you get further away from seeing that again, and like I mean, you know, I have kids now. I don't have time for playing roguelikes the way I did when I was a kid, even though it was wonderful. But so yeah, it's nice that there's the option there, and I guess I'll take it, even though there's like part of me that's like, no, but you're not like proper. Yeah, that's yeah. So I guess the question is, why doesn't it feel like losing is fun? And often it's just like I went round a corner, there was a slug snout or a chain turret or something, and probably I had time to run, but like I wasn't sure if my character was tough enough to face it, so I tried to fight it for a few rounds before I saw that no, my health was going down too quickly, so I should have run, and then I ran, but it was too late. Yeah, I don't know. It's not like a satisfying chaos. It's just like, oh, my hit points were going down faster than I thought they might. Okay, now they got to 0. oh, I couldn't turn on my force bracelet because this is one of the enemies that actually, yeah, is able to disable it, and so I can't escape. Yeah, it's a tricky balance to strike because you want. Especially like when you're venturing in zones you haven't been before and there's a new enemy type, and you're like, what's that? That's kind of scary, and that's good. You're like, I don't know what that is, I don't know what it does, that's kind of scary, that's a good feeling. Then you're like, I guess I'll have to go up to it and see what it does. And, oh, it takes my hit points down this fast, okay. I guess I can't fight it. I guess the answer is I should be using the Sphinx tonic, and checking that out without, yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of cool stuff, and there's. So I haven't played heaps of the current generation roguelikes because I just don't have time to really like get into them. So like I can't say how it compares to them, but like it's definitely in the entire genre over time like a really nice entry. So I would recommend it. So this has been my game review. Oh, stretching in a tree. Okay.